Have you ever wondered how the conflict between Iran and Israel began? Let's take a trip back in time to the mid-20th century, when the relationship between these two nations was markedly different. In the year 1948, a new nation was born in the Middle East, Israel. This marked a significant moment in history, the creation of a Jewish state after centuries of diaspora. During these initial years, Israel was in the process of establishing diplomatic ties with various countries, and Iran, then under the rule of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was one of them. The Shah was a staunchly pro-Western leader, and he saw Israel as a strategic ally in the region. On the other side, Iran was experiencing its own share of transitions. The year 1979 marked a turning point in Iran's history. The Iranian Revolution led to the overthrow of the Shah and the establishment of an Islamic Republic under Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. This was not just a shift in political power, but also a change in the ideological landscape of the country. During the early years of Israel's existence, Iran and Israel shared a peaceful diplomatic relationship, a period often referred to as the Golden Era. Trade flourished between the two nations, and they even had mutual military ties. But as with most historical narratives, the dynamics of this relationship were not static. The Iranian Revolution of 1979 marked a significant shift in Iran's political and ideological stance. The newly formed Islamic Republic viewed Israel as an illegitimate state, a stark contrast to the Shah's pro-Israel position. But as history unfolded, the relationship between these two nations took a drastic turn. The Iranian Revolution marked a turning point in the relationship between Iran and Israel. This significant event, which unfolded in the late 1970s, brought about a drastic shift in Iran's political landscape, with a ripple effect that reached far beyond its borders. The revolution, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, saw the overthrow of the Pahlavi dynasty and the establishment of an Islamic Republic. Prior to this seismic shift, Iran and Israel enjoyed a cordial relationship under the Shah's rule, sharing economic ties and strategic alliances. But with the onset of the revolution, Iran's political stance towards Israel underwent a dramatic transformation. The revolution gave rise to a new ideological framework in Iran, deeply rooted in religious beliefs. This new regime viewed Israel not just as a political entity, but as an ideological adversary. The state of Israel, in this new Iranian perspective, was seen as an illegitimate occupier of Muslim lands. Zionism, the national movement of the Jewish people that supports the re-establishment of a Jewish homeland in the territory defined as the historic land of Israel, was perceived as an existential threat to Islam. This ideological shift was so profound that it led to Iran severing all diplomatic and commercial ties with Israel. Another important aspect was Iran's newfound alliance with the Palestinian cause. The Islamic Republic perceived itself as a defender of the Palestinian rights and an opponent of the Israeli occupation. This stance further strained the relationship between Iran and Israel, adding a layer of complexity to an already delicate geopolitical situation. In the end, what started as a revolution within Iran's borders had far-reaching implications, completely reshaping the dynamics of the Middle East. The shift in Iran's political stance towards Israel marked the end of an era of cooperation and the beginning of a period of intense rivalry and hostility. From here, the stage was set for an enduring conflict. With the change in Iran's political landscape, the first sparks of conflict were ignited. In the swirling vortex of Middle Eastern politics, Iran's support for anti-Israel groups became the first spark that would kindle the flames of conflict. Iran, with its newfound religious fervor, began to openly back groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Palestine. These groups, with their anti-Israel stance, found a powerful ally in Iran, and the stage was set for a proxy war. Meanwhile, Israel was not just sitting idle. They responded with a series of countermeasures, aiming to suppress the influence of these groups. This included a wide range of actions, from diplomatic pressure on Iran to direct military interventions. However, the conflict took a more serious turn with the Lebanon War. This war, which saw Israel face off against Hezbollah, was seen by many as a proxy conflict between Israel and Iran. The war was marked by intense fighting and caused significant damage and loss of life. It served to further entrench the hostility between the two nations, and set the stage for a broader conflict. At the same time, a shadow was looming in the background, the issue of nuclear tensions. Iran's nuclear program, which it claimed was for peaceful purposes, was viewed with deep suspicion by Israel. As Iran moved closer to acquiring nuclear capabilities, Israel found itself on edge. The possibility of a nuclear-armed Iran was a scenario that Israel was determined to avoid at all costs. This combination of proxy wars, direct conflicts, and nuclear tensions created a volatile mix. The situation was further complicated by the wider geopolitical dynamics, including the shifting alliances and rivalries within the Middle East and beyond. The once cold conflict had now turned hot. The tension between the two nations was no longer just a war of words or a clash of ideologies. It had become a full-blown conflict, with the potential to reshape the region and the world. The conflict had now moved from rhetoric to action. The nuclear issue has become a cornerstone of the Iran-Israel conflict. It's a knot of complexities, a web of ambitions, fears, and global responses. Let's unravel it bit by bit. At the heart of this issue lies Iran's nuclear ambitions. The nation has long pursued a nuclear program, claiming its purpose to be peaceful energy production. But it's a claim met with skepticism. The fear held by Israel and many others is that Iran's true intent is to develop nuclear weapons. Israel's concerns are not unfounded. A nuclear-armed Iran would drastically upset the balance of power in the Middle East. It would pose a direct threat to Israel, a nation Iran has often vowed to wipe off the map. This fear has driven Israel to consider preemptive strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, a move that could ignite a full-scale war. The international community too is entangled in this issue. The United States and European Union have imposed sanctions on Iran, aiming to deter its nuclear ambitions. But these measures have yielded mixed results. Negotiations have been attempted, deals have been struck and then unraveled. The 2015 nuclear deal, for instance, promised a temporary halt to Iran's nuclear program, only for it to fall apart a few years later. And then there's the broader regional stability to consider. A nuclear Iran could trigger a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and others might feel compelled to develop their own nuclear weapons, leading to a more volatile, unpredictable region. This is the nuclear dilemma. It's not just about Iran and Israel, but about the stability of the entire Middle East, and by extension the world. It's a high-stakes game of power, politics, and survival. The nuclear issue, unresolved, continues to fan the flames of the conflict. Today, the Iran-Israel conflict continues to shape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. The complexities of this long-standing dispute have only deepened over time, with the introduction of new fronts and tactics. In recent years, the conflict has morphed beyond conventional warfare. Proxy wars have become a defining feature, with both nations leveraging the instability in the region to their advantage. Lebanon, for example, has become a chessboard of sorts. Despite being officially at war, Lebanon and Israel have initiated indirect talks to settle a border dispute over the gas-rich Karish field in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. The resolution of this dispute holds significant economic implications for both nations, and perhaps a glimmer of hope for a peaceful negotiation. The battlefield has also expanded into the digital realm. State-sponsored cyber attacks have emerged as a potent weapon, with both Iran and Israel investing heavily in their cyber warfare capabilities. These invisible battles have the potential to inflict substantial damage on critical infrastructure and sow discord in already strained relations. On the diplomatic front, the tension between Iran and the United States has been escalating. Indirect talks to restore the 2015 nuclear deal have ended without progress, leaving the situation at a dangerous impasse. This diplomatic deadlock has heightened the risk of further conflict, with potential ramifications for regional and global stability. The global economy too is feeling the ripple effects of this conflict. The continuous unrest in the Middle East has significantly contributed to the fluctuation of oil prices, affecting economies around the world. This, in turn, has implications for everything from the cost of your daily commute to the stability of global markets. As we venture into the future, the resolution of the Iran-Israel conflict remains uncertain. The dynamics are continually shifting, and the stakes are high. The potential consequences of this ongoing conflict are far-reaching, touching every corner of the globe. Each development, each negotiation, each attack, and each retaliation adds another layer to an already intricate tapestry of tension. The hope is that diplomacy will eventually prevail. But until then, the world watches and waits.